Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. I'm bringing back to the show Garfield Coore. When it comes to ranking, for me personally, he's in the top three. He's up there with Evelyn Demirov. He's up there with Tryan. And so I want to get him back. We're in the peak of Q4. And so we're going to discuss it today in parts. There's going to be 3 sections to this. And Garfield's going to run through a load of stuff with pertaining to ranking, a lot of stuff you may not know. But yeah, he's going to be sharing a lot of the stuff that he does to rank products. So welcome to the show, Garfield.
Thank you for having me again.
You're more than welcome. So let's quickly mention the 3 stages you want to talk about, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. When you look at ranking is an algorithm, right? It's a formula. And the formula has 3 distinct pieces. And it's these 3 distinct pieces that when they come together, they give you a rank juice, right? So the first piece, which I refer to as the primary piece, which if I had to guess, I would say is responsible for 90% of your ranking weight, consists of the typical thing that most people know about, which is a click from a search, a visit to your page from the click from the search, add to a cart ad from the click to the page from the click from the search, and finally a purchase that comes from the add to cart. And it's important to understand that this pathway cannot be broken. If you had, say, a variation and someone choose the variation instead of continuing with the original selected product, it breaks it, and there's no more rank juice being.
The variation doesn't pass rank.
It does not, which is one of that I hate variations, but that's another issue.
Yeah. So and, I mean, you've got proof of that. I mean, I might insert that. You've got proof of that where you've established.
Yeah, like in my GeoRank software, I've shown time and time again to people that listen. If you add a variation to a main selling product, that variation that you add will never grow. The main product is getting all the most of the juice, and if the variation gets any sales, it steals the juice from the original. So it doesn't pass rank. Like if you're going to sell a product, sell the product. Don't put it in a variation. The only time I'm okay with a variation is if it's a sizing issue. Beyond that, I don't see the purpose for it.
But there are upsides and downsides because of the cost of ranking individually and dependent on the variations. But let's move on.
Yeah, I agree. But here I have a controversial view on that. If you cannot afford to rank a product, do not list it. Like it sounds callous, but if you can't afford to rank it, why are you putting it out there? Like Amazon has changed. If you can't rank a product, it's not going to sell. Right? Anyway, so as I said, the first primary piece, which I say, which based on my guesstimate is worth about 90% of your rank juice. The secondary portion consists of the cohorts of keywords that it's grouped with. If you rank on those keywords, it's going to bleed over to the keyword you're on, as long as you're in that cohort, right? And you can easily, too. You can just go to Opportunity Explorer, and Amazon has those niches. Those are the cohorts. So, for instance, how does that help you? That helps you if you were trying to rank on the very, very highest keyword. Well, go for the small ones. You get bleed over. So the amount of effort you have to put in now for the really large search volume keyword is less because you have bleed over that's helping you. But keep in mind, it's not as strong as a primary because, as I said, the primary is about 90% of the value proposition. The third segment of the ranking algorithm is what I call the tertiary portion. And this is, probably 1%, 2% of the ranking weight. That's what you get from BSR. Or if you're, or given GeoRank, inventory. Because if you don't have inventory in a location, you will not have any ranking. Or you'll have ranking, but it will be much reduced, right? So that's a tertiary function. Now, why is that important? That's important because you hear a lot of people talk about Amazon loves outside traffic. First of all, Amazon doesn't care where the traffic is coming from. Amazon doesn't distinguish. If you get a sale from a search from internal traffic or external traffic, regardless of the source of the traffic, the impact will be the same. So one of the things with external traffic, though, is they're basically guiding people to drive that transaction or that customer directly to the store or the main page. That is hurting you because that is only getting into the tertiary portion. Because now the only thing that is getting driven is the sale, which is the BSR. But BSR doesn't contribute sufficient amount unless you're like at the very, very top of the category, right? So instead of doing that, understanding you need a search to drive the primary, which is worth 90%, makes you start thinking, okay, if that's the case, how do I now utilize the full gamut of all the tools I have at my disposal? So the first thing you have to do is you go to Amazon and say you're looking for widgets. You go in and you type widgets. That will give you a URL. And the URL, you just basically take off the cookies, identifying stuff, and just use the basic URL that executes the search. That's the URL that you drive customers to. Now, how do you get them to select your product without violating terms of service? Simple. Give them an offer so that they, make sure that the product. Because if they visit that URL, they're going to see a search, right? Because they've made this decision that the offer is attractive enough. So now you put them in the search mode. You're not violating anything. You're not telling them to go here or go there or using ManyChat to basically manipulate their movement. You're giving them an offer. So they go there, they see the search, so they find your product. And that initiates the primary contribution to relevance. So you have to have a search. You cannot rank a product using the primary methods or the primary contribution without a search. You have to have a search. And I can't stress this enough. You have to have a search. And it has to be an organic, non, what do used to call it? We used to call the URL again, super URLs. You can't use super URLs anymore because Amazon has made that non-workable, right? So you have a basic search. Someone goes in, they find your product, and they go through to your page. Now, when you hear people say, if you don't convert, you won't basically rank. But when they talk about conversion, they're talking about the sale. But when I talk about conversion, I'm talking about one of these four items: a click from the search, a visit to your page from the click from the search, and added to the cart from the click from the search, and the purchase from the click from the search. So for me, there's four opportunities for conversion in any visit, right? But so when you click through, you're getting a conversion event. Once you spend enough time on the page and not bounce off, you're getting another conversion event. When you add now the product to the cart, you're getting another conversion event. And in fact, you now have most of the conversion events. The purchase is actually a smaller piece of it than those three together, right? So you don't always have to have a purchase to have a conversion event. And that goes into another myth that I want to basically help sellers realize that, listen, you don't have to agree to, or fundamentally agree with these gurus. You do not have to have a sale to get a conversion. You need a sale to rank at the top of any keyword, of course, but you do not always have to get a sale for a conversion to be relevant because you get a click from the search. That's a conversion event, right? Why is that important? That's important because if you have the budget or if you have an attractive enough offer and you drive a whole bunch of traffic to the search event, which gives a click through, but doesn't result in a sale, a lot of gurus will tell you that you're hurting your rank. That's nonsense. Okay? Because you earned a conversion event. You're actually enhancing your rank because you got the click from the search.
So can I just stop you there for clarity? You said, so just wind that back a bit. When you say it will hurt you or not hurt you, in what context?
Well, some people claim, I've heard gurus say this all the time, that if you get non converting traffic, it will hurt you because Amazon will punish you because you're not selling anything.
I'd say that would depend. And what I mean by that, let's say that you send a load of shitty traffic, high volume shitty traffic, it will. If it's more targeted, right? Because what you've just explained. Yeah.
Hear me out. If you send high volume shitty traffic, the first thing is if that traffic doesn't click through, then it doesn't get pinned to you, period. So there's nothing to punish you with. But if they click through, you're going to get a conversion event. So it's not shitty traffic. If the traffic clicks through, you've just earned a conversion event. And now it means, remember, a rank is an accumulation of conversion events. That's what a lot of people don't realize. It's an accumulation of conversion event. If you're getting a conversion event, you're adding to that accumulation. So there's no way you're being punished. Now, if someone else is sending the same number of traffic and they're converting more than you are, of course they're going to rank higher than
relative.
You. Right, exactly. It's relative to what your competitors are doing. So what I'm trying to say is don't be afraid of sending traffic wherever you can get it from.
Can we distinguish this traffic? Let's say someone sends bot traffic, right?
If someone sends bot traffic, it's not going to work because Amazon has.
There you go. So that's why I want to distinguish it, because people will take things literally.
I'm talking legit traffic, right? We're on a public podcast, right? So we have to talk about things that people can do and not feel like they're endangering their business, right? So when I'm talking about traffic, I'm talking about legitimate buying customers, whether or not they buy.
Clear, because the thing is, when you say that, well, I can just send any traffic, Garfield, because you're respected. That's why I want to get clarity. Is that
right,
you're
enough.
Talking about good quality. Look, you can't control traffic coming from TikTok from an event where you've got an influencer promoting your product and it sends traffic, right? It's still relevant because it's relevant to the product. I'm talking about, blasting your page because of the behavior. Because what you've just explained in those stages, if you look at the cold start mechanism, you've got the priors, you've got data, which is the real data, which is the behavior. And then you've got the Bayesian update that will create a posterior on a new product, and then it refines over time. So when you're talking about the clicks, the add to carts and everything else, these are a form of behavior, right? So when the Bayesian update takes place, what happens is it will then refine the posterior over time. So everything you're explaining is in the literature that we covered. So the reason I wanted to get the definition is because if you send a load of shitty traffic,
if you send bot traffic, it's not going to do anything.
Then what will happen is when that behavior data comes in. So what you've got is, if you want to put it down into basic terms, you've got best guess, real data, new estimate. If that's where you want to break down the Bayesian update as per the literature and the article that we did. So everything you're explaining, I'm just saying the technical end through the literature, it's exactly the same apart from the external traffic, because if the posterior is refined over time on a Bayesian update, it can be 2 to 24 hours because it's got faster because of the so-called honeymoon period is elapsed because you've got priors.
There's no honeymoon period. Amazon doesn't behave differently because your product is new.
If you look in line with the literature, over time, as the papers, they introduce priors, then they've introduced the Bayesian update. And so it's got faster and faster. Ranking, what would you say that ranking updates at?
Say that again?
Search result? what would you say that ranking updates at the terms of the search page results? Every couple of hours?
Well, I did a study. I don't know if you ever saw that, but ranking seems to change like almost every 15 minutes. Like the stability is not there unless you've been ranking on the position
Yeah.
for a while.
So if ranking changes every 15 minutes, when someone comes up with and he agrees on this because he looks at the literature as well, at that time, technology's moved, right? Now, what people don't realize is that a cold start, which is what it is, a PPC campaign starting from scratch with no history, good or bad, is a cold start, right? So a cold start is applicable to any platform that needs to get visibility on products, and it's a problem that Amazon has to solve. It's a business decision. So what would they do? They want to get the best products in front of the customers. So over time, they've got faster at doing so. And what we've been looking at is we have a term from 2015 and it's now 2024. Everyone's talking about Rufus and AI. Almost everything's in real time. And then there are people that still believe there will be a honeymoon period, like there hasn't been a shift in 9 years. Do you understand? And the honeymoon period doesn't exist because it's an observation. It's called the cold start.
I don't even want to talk about it because
no. But what I'm trying
has
to do
never
is
existed for me because at the end of the day, whether like I've been ranking product for years now, right? And you know that I've been working with
and you're one of the best
sellers.
in the game. That's why it takes me ages to get you on the fucking podcast.
Right.
But you're here now.
But I have found no difference in ranking a product that has been around for 5 years, 5 months, or 5 weeks, right? Because the way Amazon works, Amazon's ranking is an accumulation of the ranking factors we're discussing right now. If you don't have any, then it relies on the setup of your listing, and it does some estimates to give you a
Exactly what I
temporary
just said.
position.
Yeah, best guess, real data, new estimate. That's it. Yeah.
But it's not going to be going out of its way to give you a chance. No.
No. That's why it's a business decision, because they want to get the best products through.
Yeah, Amazon doesn't care about your product, man.
No, they get the conversion anyway.
Yeah, well, Amazon cares about the seller in aggregate. It doesn't care about the seller as an individual. And that's what a lot of people don't seem to understand, because they take at the last podcast I did with you, I pointed out how all these metrics Amazon provides you can actually make you worse off if you use it in the manner that they suggest you use it. Because Amazon doesn't care about the seller as an individual. Amazon cares about the seller in the aggregate, because in the aggregate, we make a sale. But in the individual, we're swappable. So why would they care enough about your initial product to give you special treatment? No.
They get, like you said, in aggregate, they get the conversion anyway, whether it's you or someone else.
Which is my point. They care about you in the aggregate because they're going to get the conversion anyways, right? So anyways, let's go back to this ranking. So we have BSR, for instance. So what I wanted to get to, so that I can advise sellers, is when someone comes to you and say, Amazon loves external traffic, it doesn't matter. Amazon just loves a sale. Okay? So whether the sale comes from external or internal, by definition, they don't care. They will not treat you differently because it's external versus internal. That's a myth. But what's important to know, though, is do not, if all you want is a sale, fine. Drive them to your store, or drive them to your product page. But if you want to spend and have a sustainable business, you need ranking. And if you're ignoring what drives 90% of that ranking, which is a search, click from a search, a visit to your page from the click from the search, add to cart from the visit to your page from the click from the search, to a purchase from the visit to, like, you understand what I'm saying? You need to understand that. So if you're going to do an external ad, always make sure that there's a search URL, and give the customer a good offer so they find your product. Whether your product is on the first page or on the 5th page, if the offer is good enough, they'll search for it. because you cannot really rely on driving your rank if all you're doing is relying on BSR movement. And the same thing goes for inventory. Inventory is important because you will be lower ranked if your inventory is not in a location. You'll still be ranked, especially if you have high ranking in other areas, but it will be lowered in areas that you have less inventory as compared to how much that particular keyword sells on a daily basis, right? That's another thing is inventory is in regard to the number of sales a keyword makes, right? So how do you use this knowledge? Well, the first thing is you no longer drive your traffic to your store. That's a waste of money unless all you want is a sale. So you need to now sit back and say, how can I construct an offer that will have someone find my product in the search? That's your whole job. If you can do that very well, you've got the ranking scenarios licked, right? Another thing is, if you're going to rank, especially for key events, say, for instance, we're in Q4, right? You've seen me advise clients that if you want to rank for Q4, you should be starting September, October latest, right? Because what that does is you're able to select the keywords when no one cares about them. That means they don't have any traffic on them, which means that your ability to drive traffic on those will basically allow you to rank at the top. And now when traffic starts improving, you're basically floating with everyone else, right? Why is that important? That's important because we're now in if you come to me and say, Garfield, I need to rank so that at least in December I have some sales, I can help you. That's not a problem. But you need to now understand that it's going to cost more because now these keywords are at their top. But what if you're someone that sells a healthcare product, a weight loss product? Well, your peak season is coming up. January to March, that's your peak season. Now you should be looking at those keywords. You shouldn't be waiting until January to do that. You should be doing it now so that when January comes around and things start improving and everyone is getting into their what you call New Year's resolutions, you're on the keywords that are going to rank. So, and it's easier to rank on a keyword when it's small volume. So when you're sending that traffic on a small volume keyword, you're going to get more impact than if you send that volume to a high search volume keyword. So why not do it when it's low volume? So that's another thing I want sellers to understand is you need to start these ranking, especially if they're event driven. You need to start them a month to 2 months before the actual event. The same thing, right? Valentine's Day is coming up. You should be working on it right now in terms of ranking for Valentine's Day keyword, right? So someone comes to me and say, Garfield, I want to rank on Mother's Day. I'm going to say wait until a couple months before. But if they're saying they want to do something for Q4, it's hard unless they have the money because you cannot rank a product without a purchase. You don't need all the purchases because you have 4 conversion event, but you need a purchase, right? And a lot of people can't afford the purchase. Now, that's ranking, right? That's organic ranking. And if anyone has looked at the search results, they notice Amazon has flipped things a lot. Amazon has turned into a pay for play right now, right? Because, for instance, if you go to vitamin D3, you'll find out that the first 20 positions, of the first 20 position on any page, 14 of them are ads. This was never the case ever before. 14 out of the 21st positions are ads, right? There's only 6 organic positions there. So if you want to sell a lot of these products, you need now to be excellent organic rankers, right? So my advice is do it with as much leg room as you can, right? Start from way back so that it's cheaper to do it. Now, how do you do? We were talking about organic ranking. Another thing I've noticed is a lot of gurus conflate organic ranking with PPC placement, right? PPC placements are not based on relevance. I've seen items that have nothing to do with a keyword coming up in a PPC placement, right? PPC placement is based on the opportunity, solely on the opportunity for Amazon to make money. It's an expected revenue function that drives PPC placement. That's why, you can improve your placement by increasing the bid, right? Because the expected revenue that Amazon gets is the probability that you're going to get the click, times whatever you bid, right? So the probability that you're going to get the click times what you bid give you an expected revenue function. And that alone determines your placement. The person with the highest expected revenue function is the person that gets the first spot. Then the next one gets the next spot, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the things I notice is almost exclusively people to manipulate this expected revenue function, agencies only tell sellers to increase their bids, right? When someone comes to me,
I think that's a little bit unfair to say that every agency would tell them to increase. Do you see
a
what I mean?
majority, let me
Right. Yeah.
let me rephrase, a
Okay.
majority.
Yeah. I know you're controversial, but like that was
No
a
worries,
real
no
wide
worries.
stick. And yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
I
Go on.
painted with this big old paintbrush, right? So the function has two arguments to it, though: your bid amount and the probability you're going to get a click. So why are you only manipulating the bid amount? There's no rule that says you can't click your own ad, right? You remember we were talking before we started taping, and you were talking about the ads not having any history. Remember that? Why can't we give it history? Because all the history is a click history, right? So if you have a tool, like say one of my tool, which is the
Yeah. But if you get the
yeah,
history
you
and there's no
basically know where your
purchase,
ad is, right? You know where your ad is. Why can't you hire 5 or 10 people who have valid accounts who are also shoppers? Why can't you hire them to click your ad throughout the day and build that
what,
history?
and then buy it? Or are you talking about clicks and no purchases?
Remember, Amazon's advertising algorithm, or not even the algorithm, but Amazon advertising only makes money from the clicks. It does not make money from the sale. FBA, the next segment of Amazon, makes money from the sale. So Amazon advertising cares not if you sell the product. All they care about is if the product is clicked, because that's what drives their revenue, right? So you don't have to buy the product. You just need to click it, right? To
Okay.
build the history.
Okay. Yeah. Go on.
Well, it's controversial, and people are going to call you and
Yeah,
say,
that's
"Why
what
do you
I'm
have
saying.
this guy?"
It's very controversial. So I'm letting you
People
roll
are
with
going to
that
call
one.
you and say, "Why you have
They're going to
this
go,
guy
Danny, will
talking
you
about?"
say this? I said, it didn't me. It was Garfield who said it, not me.
At the end of the day, they should show me where it says Amazon says you can't click your own ad. It definitely says you can't click your competitor's ad, but where does it say you can't click your own ad? It's your money you're spending to drive the history. Where does it say you can't do that? That's marketing. That's advertising. I don't see where it says you can't click your ad. Show me that. Right? So if you give your ad the history, you build your own history. And here's how you build your history. To be smart about it is you basically have a low base. So for instance, let's say Amazon said the typical price to get a click for this product is $2, right? Well, then you bid 50 cents and have a top of search premium of 500%. That means when you go to page 3 and find your ad, it only costs you 50 cents versus $2, right? So when you build that history, right, you're now building the probability of a click, because that's what Amazon looks at. It looks at the past click history compared to everybody else. And that's your probability of a click. Now you have your bid amount. Now your probability of a click is going up. Now you have a history. So in fact, you can even use that as your method of driving your sale, right? Because now you've built a history. Now your ad is showing up and you're getting sales from legit customers that are looking to buy it because you've built the history. You're at the top of search because now there's 14 spots as opposed to 5 before, right? So now you have 14 spots. You've just gotten, so that's what people need to understand is PPC is not the same as ranking organically. It doesn't rely on relevance. It relies on Amazon ability to drive revenue from a click.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
if you take that,
where do you want to go for the last 10 minutes or so of the show?
sure. Well, I'm pretty much covered the two things I want to talk about, throwing some controversial technique in there by saying click your own ad.
So why don't we wrap this as we go back to the stages we just talked about. So we talked about behavior, right? So that's your click. What else was there? There was the click, the add to cart.
So the click, the visit to the page, add to cart, and the purchase.
Yes, behavior. Right. Okay. And then the second stage was?
The second stage is the cohort of other keywords. So you basically can find those by going to Opportunity Explorer. And those keywords can actually inform you on which keywords to approach first. Because if you don't have the budget, you can't go for the biggest ones. So go for the little ones and, work your way up, right? Because there'll be bleed over ranking. It won't be more than, based on my guesstimate, about 10% bleed over, but it's better than nothing. And when you bleed over sufficient number of cohorts, then you can go back to your main keyword that you couldn't afford before, and the amount of effort you have to put in now is less because you have these bleed overs.
As an example, you don't go for beard oil, you go for growth beard oil and organic beard oil if they were the relevant, right? And then you get campaign history on those, and then you go for the beard oil, which is the product type keyword.
Exactly. So now, instead of having to put in 100% effort on beard oil, you can put in 80 or 70% effort because you've got the bleed over from growth beard oil and the other cohorts, right? The final is basically the BSR because Amazon gives you a little boost to all index keywords based on your position in BSR, right? And BSR is simply driven by sales. It's basically showing your sales position in the category compared to your competitors. That's all it shows. It has nothing to do with whether or not you're ranked on a keyword or not. It's just simple sales positioning compared to what everyone else is doing. And it supposedly updates every 2 hours. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. And of course, GeoRank comes into it as well with inventory. If you don't have inventory in a location, you can still rank in the location, but you'll be ranked lower compared to if you actually had inventory in that location.
Excellent. Thank you again for the show today. Obviously, I will try and get you back. It took me 4 years to get you on first, 6 months to get you on for the second time. Go on, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What is the best way that people can reach you?
I do a professional service of ranking products for larger sellers, right? If that's why you want to contact me, you can reach me on Facebook. If you just want to reach out and say, hey, you can do the same on Facebook.
Excellent. Garfield, thank you for joining us today. Guys, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm sure there'll be plenty of feedback on this one. I hope you're having a cracking Q4. Hopefully some of this stuff will help you do a realignment or give you some more insights. I'll try and get Garfield back in the next few months, maybe in January, to cover some new stuff. But again, Garfield, thank you for giving up your time.
My pleasure.
And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Sounds good.